engineering writing is an oxymoron. You're going to have to write as an engineer. My goal right now is to minimize the torture of writing. So if you're an English major, you might want to stop this video right now. So the first rule of engineering writing is don't. Use Google Slides, shoot videos. The second way you avoid writing is make lists. And just put bullets in front of them, or don't even put bullets in front of them. Just make lists of words. Don't start putting bullets in there, and don't start counting unless there's a good reason. Don't say step 1, step 2, step 3. Don't say phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Don't say unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unless those words have a context that's already been built up. Name things. That's harder than saying phase 1 or unit 1. Name them. Concentrate on words, not sentences. Your goal are sentences that a fourth grader can understand. So if you look at the original and the rewrites, every single sentence in the original has a comma in it. And it's like the way this person writes, they have to have commas. Well, there's all sorts of comma rules, and everybody will get excited about commas if you start using them and start talking about them, and all of a sudden you're not talking about the engineering project. Eliminate the words is, was, you, your, I, and we from your documentation. Everything that surrounds those words fluffs up the document until it gets hard and painful to read. Writing in the passive voice is bad. So get rid of those words in your sentences.
So let's just do an example today. The sentence that I've written here is, the poem's narrator is the mother. To the mother narrates the poem. And you can see also why it's called active voice, because now the mother is actually doing something. Another example is, the glass was broken by the cat. The way to make that into an active form is, the cat broke the glass. It's completely simple, but it's something you'll totally miss because that's a perfectly fine sentence. The glass was broken by the cat. But in order to make it active, the cat broke the glass, if you see what I mean.
Okay, rule 4 is just eliminate anything that's around the word a, of, or, as, to. Just scan through your document and look for unnecessary words surrounding them.
In scientific writing, even though the ideas that we're trying to convey might be complex and technical, that doesn't mean the language has to be complex. The language should be as easy to understand as possible. We want to hunt down and cast out all unneeded words that might slow down our reader. It says, this paper provides a review of the basic tenets of cancer biology study design, using as examples studies that illustrate the methodologic challenges or that demonstrate successful solutions to the difficulties inherent in biological research. We'll step back from it for a minute and say, well, what were they trying to convey? What was the idea that the authors were trying to get across? So this paper provides a review of. You could shorten that to, this paper reviews. So this is an example where we've got a verb, reviews, which has been turned into a noun, a review. So again, that kind of slows down your reader. And then we go on to the basic tenets of cancer biology study design. So phrases like the basic tenets of, they're kind of vague, right? They don't add a lot. I'm not, as the reader, getting much information from that phrase. So try taking it out and reading the sentence without that, and you'll see that you don't miss it. This paper reviews cancer biology study design. And then using as examples studies that illustrate. So if you're reading that out loud, you kind of trip over it, right? So examples and studies are really referring to the same thing. We probably don't need both of those words. And since I've already said it's cancer biology study design, maybe I could just get rid of study. So using examples that illustrate. And then we get to methodologic challenge. Methodologic is another one of those sort of empty and vague words. It oftentimes doesn't add much because it's so non-specific. I know I'm talking about study design, so it's kind of implied that methods are going to be involved. So what if I just deleted that? And then we get that illustrate challenges or that demonstrate solutions. And you can see that illustrate challenges, demonstrate solutions. Maybe we don't need that second demonstrate. We can just say that illustrate challenges and solutions. And you can kind of imagine that the authors, when they were writing this, They might have said, oh, I've already used the word illustrate. I'm going to go to my thesaurus and try to find another word that means illustrate so that I don't have to repeat the word illustrate. And if you find yourself doing that, looking for a word that means the same thing, ask yourself the question as to whether you need that second instance of the word at all. A lot of times that's a good trick, a good indication that you don't really need that second instance of the word. So we can just say that illustrate challenges and solutions. And I've deleted the word successful there because if you think about it carefully, successful solutions, a solution by definition has to be successful, right? You can't really have an unsuccessful solution, so we don't need the word successful. And then finally, I'm going to delete this whole last part because difficulties is really the same thing as challenges, so we've already said that. And biological research, we already said this is cancer biology, so I don't need to repeat any of that. So we can shorten that sentence to this paper reviews cancer biology study design using examples that illustrate specific challenges and solutions.
Start your sentences off with verbs. Use verbs. Just don't turn them into nouns.
So things like obtain estimates of. We've got a verb, estimate, that was turned into a noun, estimates, and paired with the boring verb, obtain. So rather than say obtain estimates of, say estimate, or has seen an expansion in, just has expanded. Provides a methodologic emphasis, emphasizes methodology. Take an assessment of, just assess. Provide a review of can just be reviews. Offer confirmation of, confirm. Make a decision, decide, shows a peak, peaks. But the final point I want to make is keep the subject and the main verb of the sentence, what we call the predicate, close together at the start of the sentence. The reader's actually really waiting for the verb. See how hard it is to read this sentence. One study of 930 adults with multiple sclerosis receiving care in one of two managed care settings or in a fee-for-service setting found that only, you can see that it takes a really long time, that's the subject. It's a really long time to get to the predicate, to get to that main verb. And so the reader kind of gets lost because they're waiting for that verb. I only made one change in the in the edit of this. Compare that to when I moved the verb up. One study found that of 930 adults with MS who were receiving care in one of two managed care settings or in a fee-for-service setting, only 2/3 of those needing to contact a neurologist, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see that by moving the verb up to the front of the sentence, it makes it that much more readable. So always pay attention to that. Try to make sure that your subjects aren't really, really long before you're getting to the verb.
You can see in that previous overlay, I simplified the sentence by chopping it up into 2 or 3 sentences. It always is easier to chop a big, long sentence into small sentences than try to move things around. And here's another reason sentences bloat. It's when you start using the word in, on, at, of, across, or any word ending in ing. Just avoid them.
Are you often wondering about the correct preposition in a common phrase? Are you uncertain whether you should say to succeed in, or to succeed at, or depend on, or depend in? Then join me in this series of lessons for a review of prepositions in some common phrases.
No, I won't join you. Why? Just don't do it. Just keep your sentences simple. Keep them at a 4th grade level. Why decorate? Yeah, if you want to be an artist with your English, yeah, but that's not the purpose of this video. Try to keep place out of your presentations. That'll broaden the scope of the audience and the market that you can play them in front of. Don't ever go negative about anything. People, materials, lack of resources. And don't randomly title things or sequence things or number or letter things unless you've built up a strong, larger context and you're referencing that. Strip out time and chronology. Make it hard to figure out when exactly the video was shot. First we did this and this, and don't tell a narrative. Try to find some other reason for shooting the video or writing. Remove people's names. And please don't just sit down and wiggle your fingers on a keyboard and try to be inspired by the outline. The project has to inspire you. Otherwise, you're going to just end up with bloat that somebody's going to have to come along and delete, which is the most painful part at the end of the project.